apologize, I don't have any, I'm not using any pictures or any slideshows for you because I was incredibly blessed when I did my sermon this week, and I don't want any pictures or anything distracting me from what I have to say or anything on what I'm saying, but the message that really inspired me this week. I'm going to introduce myself. Some of you are familiar with me, some may not be. I've been with you now at your church for the last 8 months, so I really need to thank you for welcoming not only myself, but my entire family here. I am very excited to have my extended family, who don't usually attend this church, like my brother, my sister, my in-laws, my sister-in-law. So I do have the support from family and friends outside of our church, but most importantly, I have both my family, my church family and my family. You've all met my daughter, you've all met Maya. She's everywhere. I don't know where she is. I don't see her from here. Earlier on, I saw her upstairs with her father, and that doesn't surprise me because she's very close to her dad. And of course, when I was pregnant, she wanted a son, but I knew I had a daughter, so I was incredibly blessed to find out that I was having a little girl. But nonetheless, she has been a daddy's little girl since the day she was born. Everything from playing with him, from mocking him, from wrestling with him, and do all that kind of stuff. So, when he has the son he wanted, but in a little girl's body. I will tell you a story, though, that really scared me about Maya one day. She's been very independent, an incredibly independent little girl, and she was bathing one day in the shower, and I was in the bathroom with her, but not paying my full attention to her. So I was actually on the laptop. She was behind me in the shower, and I was every couple minutes I'd look back. She's fine. Every couple minutes, look back. She's okay. And then after a couple minutes of just checking, she's fine. I looked, and her entire mouth was full of blood. And in that moment, I completely just ran out of the bathroom. I didn't know what to do. I'm terrified of blood. I can't do anything that smells blood. So I turned around. I saw her with blood in her mouth. I didn't run to her. I didn't console her. I was just too scared. So I ran outside of the bathroom, and I got her dad. I call him Reno, but his name's Ainsley. So at home, I say, Reno, Maya, come see Maya, come see her, there's something wrong, and I can't deal with it. And I just remember walking up to the living room, he's on the couch, and I just froze there. I froze, and I said, you go, I can't deal with it. She's bleeding, I can't deal with it, so you go. And so he went, and I had no idea why she was bleeding. And it turns out that she was bleeding because she tried to shave like her dad. So in the shower, she took a razor and tried to shave. And that's when I turned around, she's full of blood. I completely lost it. And so he goes inside and he wiped her blood. He consoled her, he cleaned her up, and in that moment, the entire time, it took about 5 minutes, I was just standing in the living room like, I didn't want to look, I didn't want to see it, I wanted nothing to do with it. But in a heartbeat, he dropped what he was doing. He ran to the bathroom, cleaned her up, took care of her, gave her over to me when she was already clean. In that moment, I embraced her, and I was just so thankful that my daughter's been blessed to have such an amazing father and everything that she does. So the reason why I'm preaching today on Luke 9 is because it speaks about a father who loves his son so much, so much. In the scripture reading, I'm just quickly going to read it to you. I'll just summarize it for you because you heard it earlier. But basically what happens in Luke 9 is the disciples are coming down the mountain. There's 3 disciples coming down that mountain the following morning after Jesus has his transfiguration with Elijah and Moses. So these disciples are on the spiritual high. They just saw these 2 prophets, and they're just so excited. Peter wants to stay there, and he says, hey, God, let me build homes for these guys. We want to stay here forever. God, it's good for me to be here. Let me build a tabernacle, one for Elijah, one for Jesus, and one for Moses, because I want to stay here. And that's completely understandable, because in a religious experience, we all have these spiritual highs, right? Everything's so good, we're so in love with God, we want to stay there forever. But little do we know, a couple days later, a couple weeks later, we crash because we're no longer on that mountain anymore. So it's okay, I can relate to Peter saying, I want to keep these guys here forever, God, let's just stay here. But the reality is that next morning, these guys have to go down the mountain to meet up with the other 9 disciples. But what happens there is that there's people arguing at the bottom of the mountain. They're arguing, so you have all the keepers of the law, the Pharisees, the Sadducees, they're all arguing with the disciples. So Jesus comes down after and says, hey, what's going on here? Why is everybody arguing? For all we know, these people were arguing arguing about, do we have drums in the church? Do we not? Do we have dramas in the church? Do we not? Are we going to sing hymns or songs of praise and worship? Do we not? So we have all these people, the liberals, the conservatives, they're arguing about all these irrelevant things. And in the midst of all this arguing, you have a father who goes and says, Jesus, Jesus, I need you. So you have all these people who are arguing. Jesus says, like, what's going on here? Like, how long do I need to stay with you until you understand that the point is that there's somebody in the church here who needs you? So what happens is that this father completely humiliates himself and he just begs God, help my son. Like, I need you to help my son. And there you have all the church leaders. You have all 12 disciples. And the dad saying, I've asked your disciples. They can't do it. I've asked your disciples to take the demon out of my son. They can't do it. I've asked the people in your church, but they can't do it. So Jesus, you're my only hope. So I'm not understanding this. Why is it that you have all these people that are arguing? But in the midst of this, there's a boy who's possessed. There is a boy who's being tortured by Satan, and no one hears his cry. Nobody in the church is hearing his cry because everybody's too busy arguing about irrelevant things in that moment. In that moment, the last thing that matters is the church calendar. The last thing that matters is the schedule. That's the last thing that matters because there's somebody there who's begging for Jesus. There's somebody there who's begging because they want to see Jesus and experience Jesus. That's the point. And that is the only point. And oftentimes, it is very easy to get caught up in different things, but we know we need to minister to people in our churches. So basically, this dad is saying, Jesus, Jesus, please help me. God, I need you to help me. And this is a Jewish man, a prideful man. A prideful man who wouldn't necessarily fall to the feet of Jesus and say, God, I need you to help me. This is somebody who has a rank in society. It's not normal for a Jewish man to beg and plead for something in the church. But he does this because he has absolutely nothing to lose at that point. Okay, so in this script, though, it just says that the father begs and begs and begs. The church, let me ask you something. Where do we think the mother is? Why isn't the mom there? In a prideful society, why is the father there? Why is the father there with the son? Where is the mom? Is she at home? Why do we think she's at home? What is she possibly doing at home? Is she cooking? Is she cleaning? We know this is the father's only son. This is the only son. But she's not at home attending to the children because this father is saying, Jesus, this is my only son. Please help him. So chances are the mother is not at home cooking and cleaning. No, the mom's suppressed. As a mother, if my daughter is suffering, if my daughter is being tormented by a demon, if there's absolutely nothing that I can do to help my daughter, and I've done everything, I've called a doctor, I've given her medication, I've changed her diet, I've given her exercise, I would even call the witch doctor if I had to. If I saw that my daughter was being traumatized and tortured by a demon, at this point, I'm at a loss. There's nothing I can do. Ainsley, I give up. I can't do this. I can't. I'm sorry. I've done everything I can. You take mine. I can't do it. This mother, at this point, has given up. She, at this point, is depressed. She's lost all hope. There's nothing that she can do. If I was that mother, I would cry all day long and say, I have failed as a mother. I failed my child because my child is being tormented. There's nothing I can do. I've done everything I can. So I just say, Ainsley, you take her. I'm sorry. I can't do this anymore. I can't do this because I've tried everything. I love her so much, but there's nothing more that I can do. I'm dying inside. This is killing me. Satan has ruined my daughter and it's ruining my family. I can't do this anymore. So what does the father do? The father doesn't give up. Not for a second does he give up. He takes his son to Jesus the next morning, not knowing that he's going to be guaranteed to see Jesus. He has no idea. We know that crowds of hundreds of thousands of people gather to see Jesus. So this father was one out of thousands of people who wanted to seek Jesus for different reasons. He had absolutely no guarantee that he was going to see Jesus, but he did whatever he had to do to get to the foot of Jesus. It says in Scripture that this boy foams at the mouth. So when this boy is foaming, who's cleaning his mouth? It's the father. When this boy is being thrown into the water, who's cleaning him up? It's the father. When he vomits, who's cleaning him up? It's the father. When he falls, it's the father who's picking him up to take care of him, not the mother. It's not anybody else in his family. It's not anybody in his church. It's the father who's there for him, regardless of anything. It's the father who's there for him through everything that he goes through. And I know in my own life, I have felt like I've been ashamed of my family at one time or another. This boy was the shame of his family. Nobody wanted to be around him, nobody wanted to talk to him, nobody wanted anything to do with him. But the father never gave up on him. Now I know that all of us in our families, we have somebody who's suffering. Whether it's spiritually, whether it's health-related, financially, whatever it is, there's somebody in our family who's suffering. So what do we do to that family member when they're suffering? If there's somebody in our family who is suffering with alcohol, if there's somebody in our family who's suffering with drugs or whatever it is, how do we turn to that family member? Do we turn their back on them? Unfortunately, that is the case, and I've seen that happen firsthand. Because you see, this father, he never gave up on his son. He never ever gave up, regardless of what anybody said. He was always there for him. So as this mother, I can't even begin to put myself in that situation where I used to see Satan torture my child. And for context of this verse, Satan is controlling this child and throwing him into seizures and throwing him down and making him vomit and all these things, right? But if we relate that now, people aren't tortured necessarily by demons in that nature. We're all tortured by different things. Pornography. I know people are suffering with that. We have people who cheat in their relationships. That happens. That's real. I'm sorry, church, but I'm here to speak the truth. I'm here to speak the message. I'm not here to represent myself or any of you. I'm just talking about the truth and what happens in our churches, and not only in our churches, but in our society. So we know that people are suffering with different types of things. And what do we do when that happens? I heard the story at Acts a couple weeks ago when I went to Edmonton. But there was a pastor there, a highly respected pastor, who had been in the